Hey, welcome to another video. So today we're going to be going into the force powers of Luke Skywalker as told by Star Wars legend. So before we begin, please be sure to go in the comments and let me know what powers you wish you could have seen from Luke Skywalker. Otherwise, let's jump straight into it. So Luke Skywalker inherited immense levels of strength in the Force from his father, enough so as to actually rival Anakin, giving him the Force potential to become what his father was supposed to become, the Force potential of the Chosen One. Luke's first conscious use of the Force was to locate a lost screwdriver under a couch when he was only 6 years old. Ever since then, Luke greatly advanced his skills and powers in the Force, becoming incredibly skilled in a great number of Force powers, and was considered to be the most powerful Force-sensitive in history by some. During the Battle of Yavin, Luke managed to destroy the first Death Star by letting the Force tell him when to fire his proton torpedoes, while traveling at very high speeds, not knowing the distance to the port, and having no previous knowledge of the proton torpedoes and their capabilities. Astonishingly, Luke had only little training with the Force at this time. Only a short time after being given a lightsaber by Obi-Wan, Luke was able to instinctively block several blaster bolts fired in rapid succession by a remote, despite his lack of prolonged formal training. Without any guidance except a handbook left by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker successfully built his first lightsaber, nearly 3 years after he first was introduced to the Force, and undergoing formal training for less than a year. Further testament to this was shown when Luke was able to successfully mind trick a stormtrooper into disregarding his concealed lightsaber, roughly 2 months after he had first seen Ben Kenobi perform it. The Grandmaster was also frighteningly proficient in the most personal applications of the Force. After being fatally wounded in the battle between the Singing Mountain Clan and the Night Sisters, Luke was able to instinctively heal himself in the span of mere hours. Luke's proficiency in Force speed allowed him to increase the speed of his lightsaber strikes, as seen during his duels with the Yuuzhan Vong, Supreme Overlord, Shamira Jaman, and Unathul. With guidance from the voice of Ben Kenobi, Luke gave in to the Force and found that time seemed to slow down considerably, allowing him to fight with dramatically enhanced reflexes. Luke describes this feeling as if he didn't feel in control of the power, and instead felt that it was the Force guiding his actions. Luke also was very skilled in the use of Force jump, using it to avoid being frozen in carbonite during his duel with Darth Vader. Likewise, Luke safely landed himself and Isolder from a freefall drop from orbit within the Force. Luke's skill with telekinesis was as remarkable as it was overwhelming. In the middle of a massive midday meal food fight at the Jedi Praxium's mess hall, Luke instantly froze every morsel, drop, and item, solid and liquid, in midair as if trapped in time, only falling after Luke had consciously released everything within the room. Luke was able to knock down an AT-AT by pressing it with the Force. He also absorbed the initial cannon blast from the AT-AT before deflecting the rest with his lightsaber. Before meeting Yoda, he was able to rearm himself by pulling his blade out of the snow. Luke also could strangle his enemies, such as to try and subdue them into not fighting him. In combat, Luke was able to destroy a group of hot-wired battle droids just by waving his hand, subtly displacing their master's servos, and causing the self-destruction of the group of droids. This Force power was first manifested by Jedi Master Arca Jeth during the Great Droid Revolution. Even then, with proper instruction, it was a difficult power to master. However, this power apparently came naturally to Luke. Similarly, during the Black Fleet crisis, Luke used the Force to rebuild Darth Vader's old fortress on Coruscant. Luke would later use the Force to crush the rebuilt fortress of Darth Vader to rubble, shattering the building piece by piece and throwing it into the oceans of Coruscant. During the Battle of Dantooine of the Yuuzhan Vong War, Luke managed to telekinetically move an artificial black hole generated by the Dovin baseholes that protected the Thrall herder, which consumed the vehicle. In arguably the greatest fight of his life, Luke Skywalker walked beyond shadows and had a final duel with Abeloth. Using his bare hands and offensive force exertions, Luke was able to temporarily destroy the dark side entity, with help from Darth Krayt, who also caught Luke in the effect of his force drain. Among other force powers Luke had under his disposal, he was particularly skilled in mental manipulation. During the Eye of Palpatine incident, Luke subconsciously used his force powers to overcome a particularly vicious form of brainwashing, able to easily siphon all the information he was seeking. While searching for the kidnapped Solo children, Luke used the Force to create an illusion over his face in order to disguise his identity. After the Black Fleet crisis, with newfound knowledge of the White Current, Luke removed the Telkun vagabond from view using the Force. During the Death Seed Plague, Luke used the Force to communicate with the sentient crystals. Despite the fact that the more dissimilar the type of mind, the more difficult it was to communicate with the Force. Towards the end of the Swarm War, Luke spent a week meditatively using the Force to call all the Jedi across the galaxy to Ossus to make the announcement of him taking on the role as Grand Master of the Jedi Order, and to issue his views about the role of the Order to his Jedi. His title as Grand Master, Luke also mastered a plethora of rare and difficult Force powers. While he was recreating the Jedi Order and was searching for potential candidates, he walked on lava while still throbbing with the Force after defeating a fireworm living in the lava just moments before. Luke's performance impressed Ingantaris so much that he decided to become Luke's apprentice. During the Battle of the Jedi Praxium, Luke used the Force to bolster his students engaged in battle. During the Cooler Crisis, Luke prepared himself for death in such a way that he would become a Force ghost, showing that he could utilize such a rare and potent skill. In the years before the Yuuzhan Vong War, Luke also tried to overcome the Force blindness caused by the Ysalamiri. During the early days of the Dark Nest Crisis, Luke used the Force to generate an illusion of the Jade Shadow to fool the attacking starships. This usage of the Force, powered by his wrath, was so extreme, Luke burnt out, and his face was temporarily sunken and shriveled like Palpatine's. A year later, Luke applied the same trick on the DR-919A, but by then, Luke already mastered the technique and would no longer burn out. While battling Unathul, Luke was able to resist the combined force power of the colony and Triumph. When Unathul attempted to force push the Grand Master, Luke rooted himself with the Force so strongly that it was said that he had become the very essence of an immovable object, and that not even the black hole at the center of the galaxy could move him. During the Battle of Kashyyyk, Luke displayed amazing skills Force stealth, as shown by how he shut his presence down after being fired upon by Jaina to make it seem like he died. Later, while Ben was in the embrace of pain, Jason gave Ben back his ability to sense the Force temporarily, and Ben felt the life force of his father and realized Luke was shutting himself down to everyone except for Ben, something no other Jedi had been able to do. Right before the Battle of Fondor, Luke made Caedus see a fleet of ships, causing him to panic in front of the Navy. Luke directed it right at Caedus in general, to show him what he could do and also to scare Caedus. Luke revealed to Jaina Solo that he was capable of perceiving shadow points, a very rare Force ability, and taught this ability to Jaina. During the Battle of the Yuuzhan Tar, Luke had shown himself capable of consciously reaching a state of oneness. He was described as a maelstrom of luminous Force energy, against which there was no shelter, so calm and focused that his actions were not interrupted by any thought. Luke merged with the Force to such a degree that the Jedi Master did not even seem to be there, physically or as an individual personality. Luke's control over his lightsaber blade was so great that it was said he may as well have been wielding 10 or 20 lightsabers against the Vong. The Solo twins were astounded seeing their uncle in such a state. Luke used a powerful and unique ability of the Force related to a signature green electric judgment in the chamber of Chimera Jemaine. This technique had been described to look like green sparks, which instantly killed the Slayers. Luke Skywalker could use dark side Force lightning, such as when he destroyed a statue with it to save a student from Dark Jedi. In 43.5 ABY, Skywalker learned the lightning rod technique, Aina Seth, which he used to safely travel through the Cathal Rift. After spending time with ymca, Luke was taught the fold space ability, which allowed him to teleport objects vast distances. During the battle in the Falanasi village, when Abeloth and Luke in a deadly embrace, Luke opened himself to the Force as much as possible, drawing on his love for his son Ben, his lost wife Mara, and the entire Jedi Order. The light side rushed into him, his cells began to burst with power, and his skin gave off a golden glow. Luke's power apparently harmed Abeloth, and Luke seized the moment by using the Force to bring down a ceiling beam onto Abeloth, then seemingly killed her with his lightsaber. While looking for Abeloth on Nam Korios, Luke also mastered Nevermithy. By 45 ABY, Luke had great resilience in Force duels, able to break a powerful Force grip on his neck, and take the full blast of Force lightning to the torso. During his duel with the Korish brothers, Luke dispensed powerful blasts of Force energy that manifested itself a golden flame. He also experienced an epiphany, in which he came to the conclusion that the light side is just as important to the Force as the dark, and that their whole is only the Force, with everything else just a necessary push and pull circle of life. Upon death, Luke was able to retain his consciousness in the netherworld of the Force, and could henceforth manifest himself in spirit form. So what'd you guys think of Luke Skywalker's Force abilities? Were there any that I missed? Were there any that you wish we could have seen in Disney Star Wars in the sequel trilogy? Or even in The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Sith Citadel Discord, link is in the description, and consider becoming a join member or sending a super thanks if you wish to further support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.